Every parent's nightmare, a young woman shot to death in Atlanta. I'm Alan Devlin. Thanks for joining us.
And I'm Tracy Hutchins. Well, Camryn Olivia Price, she was shot and killed Tuesday morning. Here's a picture of her. The 21-year-old was on vacation visiting from South Carolina. Atlanta News First, Amanda Rose spoke exclusively with her family. They are still grieving this unthinkable loss.
She didn't deserve to die like she did. No one deserves to die like that.
Parents Creighton and Jesse Price can't stop seeing their little girl.
Seeing your daughter laying in the hospital bed with her brains hanging out of her head.
When I say I am not one of them stylists, I stand on it, and you is not finna approach me as if I'm one of them stylists. I truly understand that some people really do be giving these clients the runaround. They play games, they tell them to come at such and such time, and then they stand them up. But like I said, baby, I'm not one of them, and my clients gonna forever vouch for me.
Every city has its shadows, places where dreams collide with danger, where one wrong turn can change everything. In the heart of Atlanta, on a warm April night in 2023, a young woman with a future brighter than the neon lights around her was stolen from the world. Her name was Camryn Olivia Price. She was 21 years old, a rising star in her small South Carolina town, a daughter, a dreamer, and a force of nature. But in less than 10 seconds, a stranger's reckless decision ended her life and shattered the hearts of everyone who knew her. This is Dark Truth Files, and tonight, we're diving into a case that's as heartbreaking as it is infuriating. A story of senseless violence, a life cut short, and a community left searching for answers. What drives someone to pull the trigger on a complete stranger? And how does a single moment of bravado destroy so much? If you care about justice, if you believe these stories deserve to be told, don't just watch. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel, because this is the story of Camryn Price, a young woman who deserved so much more. It's 3:22 a.m. on April 4th, 2023. The streets of Southwest Atlanta hum with the fading energy of a Tuesday night. Magic City, the legendary strip club on Pryor Street, is winding down. Patrons spill out into the parking lot, some laughing, some stumbling, others heading to their cars to call it a night. Among them is Camryn Olivia Price, a 21-year-old hairstylist from Chester, South Carolina. She's in Atlanta for a quick getaway, visiting friends and her boyfriend, soaking in the big city vibe she doesn't get back home. She's vibrant, full of plans, texting her dad about her dream of opening her own salon. Her last message to him, sent just hours earlier, reads, "Dad, I'm so excited." Those 4 words would soon haunt her family forever. But as Camryn and her boyfriend climb into their Cadillac Escalade, another figure moves through the crowd. Jacori Echols, 22 years old, drunk, angry, and looking for trouble. He doesn't know Camryn. He's never seen her before, but in a matter of moments, his decision to pull a gun and fire into her car will change everything. Why did he do it? Was it rage? Was it ego? Or was it something even more chilling, a need to prove himself no matter the cost? Camryn was no ordinary 21-year-old. She was a visionary, a go-getter who'd already built a name for herself as a hairstylist with a gift for transforming not just hair, but confidence. Her Instagram was a gallery of before and after magic, filled with clients who walked out of her chair feeling like royalty. She was weeks away from launching her own salon, Camryn's Crown, a place where she wanted every woman to feel like a queen. But that dream died at the intersection of Pryor and Fulton Streets, when bullets tore through her car's windows. This isn't just a story about a crime. It's a story about potential, about a young woman who was building something extraordinary, only to have it ripped away by someone who didn't even know her name. It's about the fragility of life, the randomness of violence, and the ripple effects that leave families, friends, and communities grappling with grief. Tonight, we'll walk you through every detail of this case, from Camryn's incredible life to the night it was taken, from the investigation that followed to the questions we're still asking today. Camryn's story hit me hard. Maybe it's because she was so young, so full of promise. Maybe it's because her death was so utterly preventable. Or maybe it's because her killer's motive, if you can even call it that, was so trivial, so meaningless, that it forces us to confront the terrifying unpredictability of the world we live in. This case isn't just about one night in Atlanta. It's about the systems that failed, the choices that led to tragedy, and the lives forever altered by a moment of reckless stupidity. So, grab a seat, hit that subscribe button, and let's dive into the life, the loss, and the legacy of Camryn Olivia Price. Because her story deserves to be told, and her dreams deserve to be remembered. Camryn Olivia Price was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a visionary who lit up every room she entered. Born in 2002 in Chester, South Carolina, a small town of about 5,000 people where everyone knows everyone, Camryn grew up in a family of 7. Her parents, Creighton and Jacori Price, raised their 5 children with love, discipline, and a belief that hard work could open any door. From a young age, Camryn stood out. She wasn't just bright. She was driven, the kind of person who set a goal and didn't stop until she'd crushed it. Her father, Creighton, often called her our go-getter. While other kids her age were chasing trends or scrolling through social media, Camryn was plotting her future. She discovered her passion for hairstyling in high school, and it wasn't just a hobby. It was her calling. By 16, she was practicing on friends and family, experimenting with cuts, colors, and styles. She had an eye for beauty, but more than that, she had a gift for making people feel seen. Camryn didn't just do your hair, one client later wrote. She made you feel like you were her only client, like you mattered. By the time she was 21, Camryn had turned her passion into a thriving business. She wasn't working out of a corner in someone else's salon. She was booked weeks in advance, charging premium prices because her work was that good. Her Instagram was a testament to her skill. Dramatic transformations, from sleek bobs to vibrant weaves, each post tagged with captions about self-love and confidence. "You're not just getting a haircut with me," she'd tell her clients. "You're getting a whole new vibe." Her clients weren't just locals from Chester. Word of her talent spread, and people drove hours to sit in her chair. She remembered everything. Your kids' names, your job stress, your latest breakup. One client posted after her death, "Camryn was like a therapist with scissors. She'd have you laughing about your problems while she made you look like $1,000,000. That personal touch was what set her apart. She wasn't just building a client base, she was building a community. Camryn's biggest dream was to open her own salon, Camryn's Crown. She'd been planning it for months, sketching out chair stations, picking out colors, soft pinks and golds to make every client feel like royalty. She'd call her dad, Creighton, almost daily, bouncing ideas off him, business loans, location scouting, insurance. She had it all figured out, Creighton later told reporters. She even knew the name, Camryn's Crown. She said every woman deserves to feel like a queen. The salon wasn't just about hair. It was about independence, about creating a space where Camryn could be her own boss and lift others up along the way. She'd saved up money, built a solid reputation, and was weeks away from submitting her loan application. Her business plan, meticulously written, sat on her parents' kitchen table in Chester, a roadmap to a future she was so close to reaching. Camryn was the middle child, but she was the glue of the Price family. She called home constantly, asking her parents for advice on everything from business decisions to relationship drama. Her mother, Jessie, described her as having infectious energy. When Camryn walked into a room, people couldn't help but smile. She was the one who'd organize family dinners, who'd text her siblings to check in, who'd make sure everyone felt included. Her relationship with her boyfriend was new but serious. Friends described them as that couple who just fit. He supported her ambitions, and she brought out his adventurous side. They'd talk about building a life together, maybe even bringing him into the salon business someday. She was always planning, her best friend said. Camryn didn't just dream, she made things happen. Chester, South Carolina, isn't the kind of place that produces celebrities, but Camryn was a local legend. She was proof that you didn't need a big city to make a big impact. Her clients called her the girl who could do anything, and her family believed it. She was weeks away from turning Camryn's crown into reality, a legacy that would have put Chester on the map for something other than small-town charm. But on April 4th, 2023, all of that potential was stolen. Camryn's story isn't just about a life lost. It's about a future that never got to unfold, a salon that never opened, a family that will never be whole again. As we move into the next chapter of this story, hold on to the image of Camryn, smiling, confident, ready to take on the world. Because what happened next would shatter that image in the most unthinkable way. April 3rd, 2023, started like any other day for Camryn Olivia Price. She was in Atlanta, a city that buzzed with the kind of energy Chester, South Carolina, couldn't match. She and her boyfriend had spent the day exploring, snapping photos, and dreaming about the future. They laughed over lunch, strolled through the city, and planned their evening. Atlanta was a break from the grind, a chance to let loose before Camryn headed back to Chester to finalize her salon plans. By evening, they decided to check out Magic City, the iconic strip club on Pryor Street. Magic City wasn't just a club. It was a cultural landmark, a place where celebrities and locals mingled under neon lights. For Camryn, a 21-year-old from a small town, it was a chance to experience something new, something glamorous. She posted a few photos on Instagram, showing off her outfit, a sleek black top and jeans, her hair flawless as always. The captions were lighthearted, full of emojis, a snapshot of a young woman living her best life. Inside the club, the atmosphere was electric. Music pulsed, dancers performed, and the crowd was a mix of locals, tourists, and high-profile names. Camryn and her boyfriend danced, laughed, and soaked it all in. They weren't there to cause trouble, just to have fun. Around them, the club was packed, the energy high as the night stretched into the early hours of April 4th. But not everyone was in high spirits. Across the room, 22-year-old Jacori Echols was spiraling. Security footage later showed him arguing with friends, his body language tense, his face twisted in frustration. He'd been drinking heavily, and whatever was bothering him, maybe an argument, maybe his legal troubles, was pushing him to the edge. Echols wasn't a stranger to trouble. He'd been in and out of the system since he was 17, with a rap sheet that included financial fraud and probation violations. That night, he was looking for a way to prove himself, to show his friends he was someone to be feared. Around 3:20 a.m., Camryn and her boyfriend decided to call it a night. They walked out of Magic City, hand in hand, probably talking about the drive back to South Carolina. The parking lot was busy, cars starting up, people shouting goodbyes. They reached their Cadillac Escalade, a sleek black SUV parked near the club. Camryn slid into the passenger seat, maybe checking her phone for client messages or texting her dad one last time. Her boyfriend started the engine, and they pulled away, heading toward the downtown connector. Unbeknownst to them, Jacori Echols was leaving the club at the same time. Still fuming from his argument, still drunk, he climbed into his car with several companions. They pulled out behind the Escalade, and for reasons no one will ever fully understand, Echols zeroed in on Camryn's vehicle. There was no prior interaction, no road rage, no history between them. Just a random, deadly choice. At the intersection of Pryor and Fulton Streets, just blocks from Magic City, Echols made his move. His car pulled alongside the Escalade, the windows down. Without warning, without provocation, he raised a handgun and fired multiple rounds into the SUV. The gunshots were deafening, shattering the back window and riddling the vehicle with bullets. Glass exploded around Camryn and her boyfriend, the chaos sudden and disorienting. Camryn was struck in the head by one of the bullets. Her boyfriend, miraculously unharmed by the gunfire but cut by flying glass, fought to keep control of the vehicle. Blood was everywhere, and Camryn slumped in the passenger seat, unconscious. In a state of shock, her boyfriend floored the accelerator, speeding toward the downtown connector, desperate to find help. The attack had lasted less than 10 seconds, but it was enough to change everything. Echols and his companions fled the scene, disappearing into the night. They didn't stop to check if anyone was hurt. They didn't call for help. They just ran, leaving Camryn bleeding out in the passenger seat. Her boyfriend managed to get to a safer area and called 911. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, and Camryn was transported to Grady Memorial Hospital. But the damage was catastrophic. Despite the medical team's efforts, Camryn Olivia Price was pronounced dead shortly after arrival. For Camryn's family, the phone call that came next was the kind every parent dreads. Creighton and Jesse Price were woken in the middle of the night with the news that their daughter was gone. Seeing your daughter lying in the hospital bed with her brains hanging out of her head, Creighton later said, his voice breaking. That's a hard pill to swallow. Jacori Echols was 22 years old, a young man with a troubled past and a knack for making bad decisions. Born and raised in the Atlanta area, Echols wasn't a career criminal, but his life was a series of missteps that kept him in and out of trouble. At 17, he was convicted of financial identity fraud in Cobb County, a non-violent crime that landed him on probation. It was a chance to turn things around, but Echols didn't take it seriously. By 2023, he'd violated probation multiple times, racking up charges like hit and run and reckless driving. He wasn't supposed to have a gun. As a convicted felon, he was legally barred from possessing firearms. But on April 4, 2023, he had one. And he used it to devastating effect. The question that haunts this case isn't just who pulled the trigger, but why. What drove a 22-year-old to fire into a stranger's car, knowing it could kill someone? Security footage from Magic City provides a chilling glimpse into Echols' state of mind. Throughout the night, he's seen arguing with friends, his agitation growing with every drink. Witnesses later described him as out of control, slurring his words, gesturing wildly. Whatever sparked his anger, maybe a personal slight, maybe frustration with his legal troubles, it was clear he was looking for a target. Echols wasn't alone that night. He was with a group of companions, people he seemed desperate to impress. According to their later testimony, he'd been drinking heavily and his mood was volatile. When he left the club around 3:20 a.m., he was still fuming, still looking for a way to prove himself. That's when he spotted Camryn's Escalade pulling out of the parking lot. Here's where this case takes a gut-punch turn. Echols didn't know Camryn. He didn't know her boyfriend. There was no argument, no road rage, no history between them. So why did he shoot? According to his own admission, later corroborated by his companions, Echols fired into the Escalade to show off. He wanted to look tough, to prove to his friends that he was someone to be feared. It was a moment of drunken bravado, a reckless act fueled by ego and insecurity. The idea that someone could take a life for something so trivial is almost impossible to comprehend. But that's what makes this case so chilling. Echols wasn't settling a score. He wasn't defending himself. He was performing, using a deadly weapon as a prop to boost his image. Investigators initially considered other possibilities. Could it have been a case of mistaken identity? A gang-related hit gone wrong? Atlanta's nightlife scene isn't without its darker elements, and police looked into whether Echols had targeted the wrong car. But the evidence didn't support those theories. There was no connection between Echols and Camryn, no prior interaction, no motive beyond his own need for validation. Another angle was the role of his companions. Why didn't they stop him? Were they complicit, or just bystanders too afraid to intervene? Their testimony painted a picture of a group caught up in the moment, egging Echols on or staying silent as he spiraled. None of them faced charges, but their inaction raises questions about the dynamics of group behavior and the failure to act when danger is imminent. Echols' history offers some insight into his mindset. His repeated probation violations showed a disregard for consequences, a belief that he could skate by without paying the price. His earlier charges, fraud, hit and run, reckless driving, suggested someone who thought rules didn't apply to him. But nothing in his record indicated he was capable of murder. That's what makes his actions that night so shocking. It wasn't a planned crime. It was a split-second decision that destroyed lives. In the hours after Camryn's death, Atlanta police faced a daunting task, solving a random shooting with no clear motive. The scene at Pryor and Fulton Streets was chaos. Broken glass, bullet casings, and a community in shock. But the police had one advantage: Magic City's extensive security cameras. Footage from the club and surrounding streets captured Echols' car leaving the parking lot, following the Escalade, and pulling alongside it at the intersection. Investigators worked methodically, piecing together the timeline. They interviewed Camryn's boyfriend, who was still in shock, his hands and face cut by glass. He described the sudden gunfire, the terror of realizing Camryn was hit, and his desperate drive to safety. Witnesses in the parking lot reported seeing a group of young men arguing near the club, one of them visibly intoxicated. That description led police to Echols. For 7 months, Echols thought he'd gotten away with it. He went back to his life, assuming a random shooting outside a busy club wouldn't trace back to him. But Atlanta police were relentless. They cross-referenced security footage with vehicle records, narrowing down the suspect's car. Witnesses from Echols' group, under pressure, began to talk. One by one, they confirmed what police already suspected. Echols was the shooter, and he'd bragged about it afterward, calling it a moment of fun. In November 2023, police arrested Echols while he was already in state prison for a probation violation. The charges were heavy: murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The last charge was a stark reminder of the system's failures. How had a felon gotten a gun in the first place? Camryn's death sparked outrage in Chester and beyond. Social media was flooded with tributes, her clients sharing stories of her kindness and talent. How could someone with Echols' history be free to roam the streets? Why wasn't his probation enforced more strictly? The case became a lightning rod for discussions about gun violence, recidivism, and the dangers of Atlanta's nightlife. The media played a significant role too. Outlets covered the story extensively, interviewing Camryn's family and highlighting her dreams. The narrative wasn't just about a crime. It was about a young woman whose potential was stolen. Public pressure kept the case in the spotlight, ensuring police didn't let it go cold. Ballistics evidence was a game changer. Bullets recovered from the Escalade matched a gun linked to Echols, found during a later search. The weapon wasn't registered to him, raising more questions about how he'd obtained it. Witness testimony from his companions was damning. They described his drunken ranting, his need to prove something, and his casual admission to the shooting. The investigation wasn't without challenges. Some witnesses were reluctant to cooperate, fearing retaliation. Others gave conflicting accounts, clouded by the chaos of the night. But the evidence was overwhelming, and Echols had no alibi. His companion's testimony, combined with the footage and forensics, left no room for doubt. In 2024, Jacori Echols faced trial in an Atlanta courtroom packed with Camryn's family, friends, and supporters. The prosecution's case was airtight. Security footage, ballistics, witness testimony, and Echols' own admission painted a clear picture of guilt. The defense tried to argue that his intoxication mitigated intent, pushing for a lesser charge. But the prosecution countered that firing multiple rounds into an occupied vehicle showed a reckless disregard for life. After 2 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for just hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts: murder, aggravated assault, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. The courtroom erupted in tears of relief from Camryn's family. During sentencing, Creighton and Jacori Price delivered heart-wrenching victim impact statements. Jesse's words to Echols were particularly powerful. "I forgive you as a person because that's what Camryn would want, but I'll never forgive what you did." Echols was sentenced to life without parole, plus additional years for the related charges. At 22, his life was over, confined to a cell for a crime that took seconds to commit. This case raises tough questions. How did a convicted felon get a gun? Why wasn't Echols' probation enforced more strictly? Could better security around Magic City have deterred the shooting? The Price family has become vocal advocates for gun violence prevention, pushing for stricter laws and better monitoring of repeat offenders. They've also called for programs to teach bystander intervention and anger management, hoping to prevent another tragedy. So, here's my question to you. What can we do to prevent tragedies like Camryn's? Is it stricter laws, better community programs, or something else entirely? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a conversation about building safer communities. And if Camryn's story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join Dark Truth Files as we keep telling stories that matter.